And welcome back to Coast, George Norrie, along with Cheryl Jones. Cheryl, did you ever think that when you were at CNN you'd be reporting on UFOs and ETs?
Oddly, that never crossed my mind that I might actually be in this situation. No, it didn't. I thought about UFOs, but I never thought that I would be working in it in the way that I have been.
I'm curious, when you're at events or when you're shopping or something, do people come up to you and go, aren't you, aren't you?
Well, I always say she is so much prettier than I am and a lot taller, and I'm often confused with her, but thank you for the compliment.
You mean you don't take a bow?
Oh, sometimes I do, but sometimes I just go with it, whatever the mood is. Yes, it's nice when people have a lot to say to you and want to share with you their experiences and so on.
Well, you're having fun doing what you're doing with us, I can tell.
Absolutely. What a great team.
It is.
Everybody.
It is. Where have all the mosquitoes gone, by the way?
I don't know. I just hope the GMO mosquitoes go back where they came from, because I don't think that's very good news for us. I'm rather leery of some of these programs.
That's not smart, making genetically modified mosquitoes.
Right. And I'm not really sure what Bill Gates is up to and what the agenda is behind all of that.
Did you see the story of Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yes.
That an asteroid may have taken it out, which has got biblical connotations because God said he was going to destroy that area. And look what happened. Oh,
I know. It's absolutely amazing and frightening in a lot of ways with a lot of things. And I heard your interview the other night with the guest relating to aliens in the Bible, and I thought that was so intriguing.
Big time. Let's go to the phones west of the Rockies. Pat is truck driving in California. Hey, Pat, welcome to the program.
Hey, George. Thank you for taking my call. And I know it's, and Cheryl, thank you for the work you do. Your interviews are always top-notch and very, very interesting. George, I just wanted to personally thank you. I've been listening to you for at least about 15 years, and I've been driving graveyard ever since then. Out here trucking from L.A. to the Bay Area, and you always have just great shows and always help keep us safe on the road. And I just wanted to personally thank you for that, George.
Well, thank you, Pat. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Thank you for what you do. And I just had a question about tonight's topic, and for both of you to weigh in, George and Cheryl. Do you think that the UFOs and the grays, that they may have the technology as we try to skycam them, that they can actually scramble our technology because theirs is so far advanced than ours that it may get to a point where we would actually have a really hard time getting too close to the evidence, that they'll always just keep us an arm distance away, I guess you can say?
That's an interesting question. What do you think, Cheryl?
Well, if they're so advanced, they certainly have the ability to be so evasive to whatever degree they want to be, and it seems that has happened. They certainly have the intelligence and are able to do things that humans just can't do. So I don't know. I mean, I have no answers for that because there's no way that we can really know all these things. And I'm not really sure we're ever going to have all of the answers that we'd really like to have unless they decide they want us to have that information because they seem to be in control.
But Pat is very poignant. It's very possible they have technology to evade anything that we try to use to find them.
Absolutely. Apparently that's been happening, and apparently everything is on their timeline, not ours.
Keep driving safely, Pat, and thanks for keeping America moving along. Joe in Long Island, New York, east of the Rockies. Hello, Joseph.
I have a question for you, but before that, LifeSiteNews.com has a reporter closely following the World Health Organization. Is watching many, many hours of what they're doing, James Rotowski, so you can look at LifeSiteNews.com. But I know George never saw Gone with the Wind, but another classic movie is La Dolce Vita. And I'm wondering if you could possibly track down one of the actors. There were two young actors in that had a prominent role. One was a boy at the beach house where he was trying to, the main character was basically a reporter that was distracted, and he was trying to do some of his typing at the beach, and there was an assistant that was probably around 8 years old. And then there was like the angelic woman that represented the pure person that was in the ending scene, some younger girl that was probably like 18 that played the part. So I'm wondering, like, if like with that particular movie, if you could find either of those actors or one of them and maybe interview them. Cheryl, what do you think?
Well, that would be great if they could be located and if that would be a possible setup. It would be absolutely fabulous.
We can find anybody, Cheryl.
That's right. Just have that special advanced technology.
By the way, your December show is going to be a couple days after Christmas, just so you know that.
Yes, I noticed that, but I don't have to work the holiday this year.
And now the Thanksgiving show will be Thanksgiving Thursday, but will you be on Thanksgiving night or not? I don't think so.
That's on Thanksgiving on the 30th.
Thanksgiving's before that.
Oh, on the 23rd. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the
So you'll be on the 30th, a week after Thanksgiving.
I'll miss that one as well.
I'll be on.
So I'll be thinking about you.
Bill in Los Angeles. Take it away, Billy.
Hey, George and Cheryl. I really like the information that Mitch provided, and I think the Skywatch is a great idea. But if you think about the tic-tac information that's been out there for 5 years now, including congressional testimony, New York Times exposure, all these things, and yet the mainstream science people just dump all over it, starting with saying, it was a computer glitch. And even the guy, George, that you had on last night, he started to say, well, that's just laser pointers with dots. And to your credit, you pointed out, no, those are structured craft. They're not dots. And it's like pulling teeth with some of these people who are very intelligent, but they've got this worldview that says, no, we're all alone, nothing could do that, and yet we've got evidence for the last 70 years since 1952 of things that can do things that we could not do in 1952 with our aircraft, and certainly we don't have aircraft now that can go 60,000 miles an hour. So I just like to know why both of you think, or if you think, that Skywatch is going to convince the mainstream science people to stop being so arrogant in their assumptions.
It probably won't, in my opinion, Cheryl. The mainstream media, it's going to take more than just about anything to get them convinced that extraterrestrials are visiting this planet.
Yes, they haven't been around Steve Bassett long enough, have they?
No, they have not.
But it's this is something that, in a sense, has come up so suddenly on mainstream media. It doesn't seem sudden to us, but to them, they're in a completely different world because just remember, until just recently, it was always just a joke at the end of the newscast, if they even referred to it at all. Even after the reveal in the New York Times in 2017, there wasn't much of a change in attitude. A little bit every now and then, but not really. And then as things progressed, and then with the recent hearing with my guest last month, Congressman Tim Burchett, leading the charge, basically spearheading the dramatic information that came out, bringing the witnesses together at that hearing, and things have taken a turn toward the more serious, but we shall see. There seems to be a power play of the in terms of those in control of the information behind the scenes from the things that we know about. So it's kind of a catch as catch can, and we'll see what develops. And mainstream media, I think, I do agree with you. I think it's going to be slow because this is a huge, huge thing for people to comprehend who have not realized how serious it really is for so long.
I'll always remember 1971, young reporter. I catch a little article in the Detroit newspaper that said, nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman will be speaking at Oakland University on unidentified flying objects. I saw that, and I was hooked on that subject way before I became a little broadcaster. Mm-hmm. And I went to my news director, John Webster, who went on to Cleveland to do great things. And I said, John, can I cover this story for us tonight? And he went, no, I'm not going to spend the money on overtime. If you want to, go on your own. And I did. And interviewed Stanton Friedman for the first time. He was my first major interview. And we hit it off and stayed together and, talked about UFOs. But the mainstream media news director didn't want me to cover the story.
Yes. You're lucky your news director even let you do that, even when you offered to pay for it and did pay for it or didn't receive payment for your work, because that during those years and up until, recent years, it has been something that you wouldn't even bother running by the assignment editor because you wouldn't be approved for it.
They aired the story the next day when I came back and edited it. And in those days, we didn't have all this great technology. We had to edit audio tapes with a razor blade.
Well, in my first job, it was still film. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And then 3/4-inch tape, and then beta, professional beta, and then on to where we are now with digital. How far we've come.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine editing tape with a razor blade?
Somehow it happened.
Yep, and we did it.
Yeah. I did live commercials in between breaks, by voice only, obviously, when I was doing weather initially, too.
Let's go to Mary in New Jersey. Take it away. Hi, Mary.
Oh, hello, George. Hello, Cheryl. Just to say hello.
Hi.
Tell me if this is a coincidence, all right? My father-in-law's name began with a U. My father's name began with an F. My mother-in-law began with an O. And my mother's began with a B, the two maiden names. So it's a UFO B. Buzz.
No coincidences. Things happen for a reason, Mary.
Oh, God. You think there's any others like that out there?
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, probably a lot of them.
That's cool, Cheryl.
That really is. It's always nice to have the uniqueness like that in your family. That's a nice story.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. Don in Alberta, Canada on the international line. Hey, Donald, go ahead.
Hi, George. Hi, Sherry. So I'm going to go off topic for a little bit, but I want to cover a little bit of things on the UFOs.
Sure.
So you keep recommending almonds.
Yes.
One thing is they can't be roasted. Okay, that's the one thing that also you have to put out there. And then if you soak them in water, it gives you 6 beneficial things. Some almonds are sprayed with antifungal. It takes that away, so you don't drink the water. You just keep rinsing them every day. I don't recommend tap water because it's full of garbage. Anyway, but it takes away the anti-enzyme properties of seed, and it activates the enzymes in the seed. You get about 6 beneficial things by soaking them for at least 3 days. But anyway, so
all right, good idea.
I can go down the list, but anyway, I used to be a big naturopathic crazy guy. But anyway, so the
so how many almonds a day program, do you eat? 2?
I ate 3.
3.
Yeah.
Eat and eat more.
Just
you
3.
can eat more than that.
You can, but I just ate 3. That's what Edgar Casey recommended. 3.
Uh-huh.
3 a day. Yeah, they actually work really well. For the UFO thing, I don't think Skywatch is going to work. I talked to a radar operator years ago, and he said the craft routinely would come in from the North Pole to the South Pole doing about 10,000 miles an hour between Europe and North America. So they already know that they're coming in. It's like it's not a big secret. If the simple guy I'm meeting with on a plane tells me about it, it's not a big secret. Yes, about 2 years ago, I seen a craft, and it came in. It was about 2:00 in the morning. Well, it's actually 1:58. But it was so large, I couldn't believe it. It was a rectangular craft, but the edges were smooth, and this thing was absolutely huge. And it only was visible for about 6 seconds. I think it's because it was coming through the ionosphere. It had to be at about 80,000 feet, but I still can't even wrap my brain around how large this craft was. Jumping ahead in time, like if they couldn't detect that, I don't know what they could detect. Like I drew a picture of it afterwards. Like I was actually just looking on the internet how to send pictures in. I still can't figure that part out. But the recent UFOs that I seen were just they're orbs. They're like a small white ball. My friend sent me a picture. That's the ones I was trying to send in on a security camera. And he sent me a picture in the daytime and then a picture at night because I said, oh, that's just your light on your shop that's causing that light. But he showed me a picture in the daytime and then one later. Ironically, 2 weeks later, I see one coming. It's going from north to south. It's doing about 80 kilometers, which is about 50 miles an hour. And it's just skimming along just above the tree line. And so I stepped out of the bush. And as I observed it, as it got about probably 1,000 yards away, it started zigzagging back and forth. And then I woke up in the middle of the night. I was listening to George Knapp, and he had a gentleman on because they have video and they're trying to understand them. But one of the theories is that the magnetic its propulsion system causes distortion in the light, and that's why we see it zigzagging back and forth. But I've been thinking about that. He had two other possibilities for it, but the one thing I was wondering is I think it actually picked up my intent, like when I started seeing it. Like if you do experiments and you watch a scientific experiment, you'll actually change the outcome because you're projecting your intent on it. So I think it started zigzagging because I was projecting my intent at it. Whether it is a magnetic field / light thing, I don't know, but anyways, but the triangular craft, that was massive. Like, I can't even imagine. To this moment, I still can't wrap my brain around how large this thing, like, it was massive. Like, I would have to do, like, a distance, like, it wasn't even close to being the size of an aircraft. It was so huge. It was like a city coming down. It was just like, anyway. But the white orbs, there's been tons of recorded cases. Oh, by the way, from St. Paul, where we have a UFO landing pad that was built in 1967 after a huge translucent 300-meter craft hung around the town and lit it up like it was daylight. So,
all right, great, Don. We're going to take a break in a minute, Cheryl, and come back and take final calls with you in just a moment. Those of you on hold, just hang where you are. Our special guest is Cheryl Jones, who's our investigative reporter who comes on monthly with all kinds of amazing stories. Her website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. And welcome back to our final segment. George Norrie here along with Cheryl Jones, and your final calls right here on Open Lines. Cheryl, of everything you've covered, what has been your favorite topic?
That's a hard question to answer, but they all have a lot of intrigue in one way or another, because obviously we wouldn't be covering a story if it didn't have intrigue. But maybe one of them would be the alien healing interview I did with Terry Lang Keel, and that was just really, really an amazing story that I had never heard anything like it before in my life. That was in September, I believe, of 2019 when I did that story. Another amazing one to me was Susie Ward, who had an ongoing communication with her son who had passed away in a terrible automobile accident at the age of 18, and she for years has been doing Matthew's books. His name was Matthew, and she has regular sessions with him via the computer, and she communicates with him telepathically from the other side. and other beings that are with him, and reports that on her website, Matthew's books. So there's several incredible ones, but they run the gamut.
Let us go to the calls. Thomas in La Jolla, California, to get us started here. Hey, Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, George. I want to thank you and your staff, and also I want to bless our entire audience, every man, every woman. We have the best audience in the world.
Yes, we do, sir. Thank you.
And Cheryl, just thank you for your great research every month. And my question is, I wonder if you've interviewed any whistleblowers who are utilizing military-grade night vision viewing devices, which are available through surplus in third generation and perhaps in fourth generation or fifth generation night vision. It just seems to me that night vision viewing devices would be useful for not only viewing UFOs in the sky, but also cryptids like Sasquatch and Chupacabra and that type of thing. So I was wondering if you knew anything about that, about utilizing night vision, which is available now through surplus.
And let me jump in for a second, Tom. Do you remember our guest, Ed Grimsley?
Oh, yeah.
He passed away, but he's the one who brought us the night vision goggles.
Yes.
And he has seen, and I saw some with him, some incredible objects flying all over the place. Did you ever go up there on that hotel room floor, Cheryl? Were you there at that conference?
No, I was not at that particular conference. I wish I had been. I heard about it.
The night vision goggles somehow point out these objects in the air doing 90-degree turns, starting and stopping. They were not satellites. They were not insects. They were something very, very bizarre. I've never seen anything like it before.
I would think that, and he brought up a very good point with night vision goggles. I'm surprised that they are not more popular and used a lot more often than they are. They don't seem to be getting the credit that they deserve.
Next up, Cornelius is with us in Alexandria, Louisiana. Hello there, sir.
Hey there, George and Cheryl. Boy, that Tom from La Jolla, he's a sharp fella, and, of course, Miss Mayette and Bill from Los Angeles. Bill, I tell you, watch News Nation. If you want all the breaks on the UFOs and David Grush, watch News Nation. These other, I call them mainstream mocking media and stuff, they're working with the CIA. They'll never, Fox, Newsmax, and then on the left, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, and CBS, they'll never air it unless it lands on their front lawn. Then they might air it. But I'm going to talk to Cheryl and George about this. And Mr. Bryan, God bless you, Mr. Bryan. I hope everything will work out. We need to pray for Mr. Bryan. George and I brought him up, too, on his program. And Cheryl, what I told Tommy Danheiser, we need to concentrate, too, on this digital currency. And George has those ads about the BRICS nation and all like that. So I hope you'll do a show with somebody on digital currency. Now, Biden has signed last year where we'll go to a digital currency. I call them Biden bucks and everything. And I just hope and pray, too, that you'll do an interview with David Grush, because I think they're going to try to get rid of David Grush because of what he knows about the UFOs and stuff. And like I said, Tom, that's a great idea, using night vision goggles to see all this stuff. So God bless you, George, and God bless you, Cheryl, and God bless Coast to Coast.
Thank you very much. Good statements there, Cheryl.
Well, David Grush has certain limitations that he is under, and he's pretty well informed in terms of what he can say and not say, and I think he has he's said what he can say basically in the hearing, and it would be great to interview him. but I don't think he's going to let anything slip until he can safely do so.
He won't say any more than what he said in the public hearing.
Exactly. I mean, it would be nice, but that's just the way things are.
Let's go to Ted, truck driving in Mississippi. Hello, Theodore. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me, George, and thanks for listening to me, Miss Jones. We got a thing going on tonight, and it's not about radar reception. It's about human deception. So given my druthers, I take the curtain behind Cheryl. Oh, look, it's Bob Lazar. Do we have a collective memory loss here? I mean, Bob Lazar was on Art Bell 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So if we want true disclosure, why don't we just subpoena him to the congressional hearing? And, I mean, he's still in his chem shop up in the Northwest. So the reality doesn't have anything to do with the data collection. It's figuring out who's telling the fibs and who's pulling the strings and for what purpose. So my guess is we're an experiment or we're pets, or I doubt we're food. But and it was so horrible to see that congressman, after it was explained what the craft can do, he's like, well, can we defeat them? I was like, oh, my gosh. Embarrassing. You should have to pass a Mensa test to be a congressman. Anyhow, I'd like to know your thoughts on Bob Lazar. You either believe him or you don't believe him. And I take it both of you are familiar with Mr. Lazar.
Oh, so sure. Absolutely.
I'll take your answers off the air. And thank you so much for having me on.
Sure thing, Ted. And our George Knapp is the one who brought Bob Lazar to Art Bell many, many years ago. And he's still out there kicking. But he had some amazing things to say, Cheryl.
He really did. And he was rated some time ago, too. I mentioned last month in my interview with Congressman Tim Burchett that there were some concerns about those kinds of things that really don't get any attention, just like the UFO researcher in Vegas or in Nevada who was raided last November, too, in both of his homes. What's the point of all of this? And, there are things going on that are reported in the news, and then there's a level where they're ignored. And that's all very strange.
Let's go next.
Yes, George Knapp sure did us all a favor by starting his very insightful and deep reporting a long time ago. And he really, really did a great service to all of us.
We're lucky to have George as part of our team. He's one of the best UFO reporters out there. Carla in Lafayette, Louisiana. Hi, Carla. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Bonjour from Cajun Country, George and Cheryl. Thank you
Hello.
for taking my call.
Thank you.
I have a request for you, George, and a question for Cheryl.
Okay.
I've been wanting to do this for a long time. My request is a creation medium for coast-to-coast listeners who are in relationships or married like myself who would love a platform for a paranormal just friends. There's many of us out here who would love to discuss topics in paranormal nature with like-minded people who aren't seeking a romantic relationship. That was for you, George.
Interesting. Well, we've got paranormaldate.com, but people want to get together. But there are some people on there, Carla, who just want to converse. So they're not just all looking for relationships there.
The only reason I haven't used it. And my question for Cheryl was, I was wondering what, if any, data could be collected from Skywatch for some of the UFO anomalies that could be like interdimensional. Does the passive radar pick up on any type of markers like portal openings and craft that may not have a physical quality in our dimension?
I don't know that answer. That would be a really good answer or a good question to send to Mitch Randall at his website at ascendantai.com, and that'll be linked up on his name on Coast. And you can go to his site, and there's a section there for the comments and questions. And I think he would love to I'd love to answer you on that because he would be the expert, not me. I just reported the story. But that's absolutely phenomenal. That would be interesting if we had sensors that would detect portals. Can you imagine what that would look like?
I'm not sure we have that capability, Cheryl.
I'm not sure I want it, but we might have a lot more going on than we even think about.
Eric is with us in Watsonville, California, first-time caller. Hi, Eric. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Hey, Cheryl and George. I guess I have. Let me start with one little story.
Okay.
I died a few years ago.
Well, thank God you came back.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. I was only probably dead about 5 seconds. It felt like 15 minutes. But you know how everybody talks about they see the light? And
Yeah, exactly. Did you see the light?
I did not. I felt very warm and floaty, and it was complete blackness. But here's my thing, George. I heard music, and it sounded very familiar. And when I came back, I was thinking it sounded like flutes, or it sounded like, wind instruments. And then I finally realized, I believe I heard an angelic choir.
That's interesting. When you passed, Eric, where were you?
Well, thank goodness I was in a hospital.
Okay. And they weren't piping any music around or anything at the time, I assume.
When's the last time you went to the hospital and heard music?
Well, it's been a long time I've been in a hospital, but you're right.
Good for you. So I have a couple of questions. That's just the story.
All right, go with one because we're almost out of time. Go ahead.
So Cheryl and George, what do you think about the two things that are going on right now with, the space dust brought back and about the lunar landing?
Well, first of all, the lunar landing is fantastic, and we did go to the moon many times, and we're going to continue to go to the moon. And the space dust that they've picked up, Cheryl, is pretty fascinating, I think.
Well, it really is, and we'll see what comes of it. Let's hope it didn't bring back anything that might be contagious.
Well, I was going to just say that.
Mm-hmm. So that's always the concern with something that comes back. But that's really something that will be amazing to find out what the analysis ends up being if it's reported to us. Do you think we'll know for sure?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they'll tell us everything.
Well, that will remain to be seen.
Exactly. We will talk to you the end of October.
I will be here, and I look forward to it.
Cheryl Jones, whose website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com, and she just does a incredible job. This was a major story. Skywatch looking for UFOs. Will it happen? We shall see, but we'll follow up on it right here on Coast to Coast AM. And again, thank you to Ryan Stacy for working and filling in for all the years backing our webmasters. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladouceur, Ryan Stacy, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian Punnett, I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.